Hi everybody, Barbara Drasky here, aka the Deal Diva with DealDivaWholesale.com. And today I'm interviewing Damon Roberts from Import Designs, and we're going to be talking a little bit about importing from China and the coronavirus. Now, I don't want to be a fearmonger and scare you guys. What we're going to do is just lay out what we know based on some research we've done and with Damon communicating with his factories in China, like directly on the ground in China, to find out what's going on with the supply chain as e-commerce sellers and what can we do about it. You know, what do we have control over? And we're going to talk a little bit about Damon's business. He's a third-party logistics company for my business. He helps me design and manufacture a couple of my private label products, and I've been working with him for a couple of years. So I wanted to introduce him to my tribe finally, and let you guys ask any questions in the chat about importing from China and outside of China. And we're going to answer as many questions as we can about what the situation is right now at the beginning of March 2020, with the caveat that we don't know everything. We don't know what we don't know. And we're just throwing out some ideas for you to maybe protect your business and grow your business outside of China. So here we go. Damon, thank you so much for being with me today. That's Damon Roberts, Import Designs. Damon, tell us a little bit about how you got, I know you've been importing for 20 years. That's crazy. You look like you might have started when you were 8 years old. So congratulations.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you. Yeah, the virus is changing daily. You know, as of today, there's over 3,000 deaths, 90,000 total people infected with it. It's in every continent except for Antarctica right now. This is kind of new territory for a lot of importers and also a lot of factories in China too. So in shipping logistically, it's a new territory for a lot of people. But we started importing 20 years ago. You know, back then there wasn't a lot of people, a lot of factories online, and I just made a trip to China and got in a hotel and pulled out the phone book, and our two major categories was costume jewelry and also home decor. So, you know, I was going through a phone book and asking the hotel hostess at the front to help translate for me. And, you know, when I found a factory that was, you know, could speak some English and relatively close to where I was at, and then I'd take a taxi there and go visit them and come back. One of the first items we imported was stretchable book covers back 20 years ago when we first started. But it's changed a lot. You know, now it's a lot more technology, a lot, you know, they all have websites, most of them do now, but it's a, you know, they haven't even all came back to work. They're trickling in. A lot of them are just, you know, in their office. They haven't really started production on anything. A lot of them are concerned about what the future might bring. And so it's kind of an unknown territory right now.
Now I've shadowed you in China a couple of years ago. Took a trip to China, and you were kind enough to let me kind of take me under your wing. And you know, a lot of e-commerce sellers, they just go to Alibaba or AliExpress and look for their factories there. But I love that you're old school and that you just had boots on the ground and dug in. And that's, you know, that's the definition of a good definition of hustle. You know, you don't rely on sitting behind your computer. You figure it out. You've got a problem, and you know, you don't stop like a lot of e-commerce sellers. If something's not super easy, they just give up, and that's not the definition of success. You guys know I talk about perseverance a lot. So thank you for modeling that in real life.
You're very welcome. I'll touch a little bit on that. The difference between Alibaba versus actually going over there is you can negotiate face-to-face a lot better than you can just on a text or just on an email. Also, too, you get a chance to meet the owner, see how their factory works, get their factory capability, how many they can produce per month or per week. Also check on their quality too, and the different stages that they have to produce your product. So I always suggest it's better to go over there if you can. It's just, that's what we do. I understand it's not everybody's theory, but that's just what way we do it. And I think it's always better to price wise and quality wise.
Well, here's one of the reasons why, I don't think I ever told you this, why I decided to partner with you. I spent probably 5-6 months on Alibaba. I had a specific product that I had designed and I wanted manufactured, and I was on Alibaba back and forth with a bunch of different factories I had very specific photographs and dimensions and everything. I knew exactly what I wanted. And the information I was getting back was completely unrelated to what I was asking in most cases, completely unrelated. I was so frustrated. And then I think I asked you last trade show, I saw you, I was like, Damon, can you help me make these? And you're like, yeah, sure. We do that for people. Like, so sometimes asking the right people the right questions. And in fact, we've already got one of my SKUs in and another one hopefully in production soon, all due to you, by the way. So thank you very much for making that happen for me as an e-commerce seller. So just so you guys know, he's not like a random guy that I'm interviewing. I have had several years of relationship with Damon, and I'm very impressed with his work ethic, his work values, his company values, and the quality control that he uses with his factories. And he also does fulfillment. He's got a third-party logistics arm to his company, 3PL. So he will fulfill all of my orders, wholesale and D2C, direct to consumer. So I want to just kind of jump in here. I know you gave me an outline. You did a lot of research for this interview on what are we going to do with, can we expect that we're going to be able to have anything manufactured in China anytime soon? Where else can we look? What are our next steps as e-commerce sellers?
It's a good question. We're in a pretty good situation where we have factories outside of China, and we started shifting that direction last fall simply because of the increase in duties and tariffs. Thailand is one of our countries that we work with that's actually duty free. We do a lot of business there. We also do a lot of business in Vietnam too. So the duty rate from Vietnam is a little bit cheaper than it is China. So we're in a pretty good situation. We brought in a lot of good inventory at the end of last year, and we've already gotten a couple of containers in this year so far. Now there'll be a delay since Chinese New Year is kind of affected it too, and now the virus is affecting it. But as far as other countries, you're going to have to source or work with an importer that is sourcing outside of China. If not, you don't really know what to expect. We have some old factories we've been working with in China for many years. A lot of them have said that they're slowly starting to start production, but we just don't know for sure. So it's best to have like a backup, a plan B, and even a plan C. So that's our game plan, and that's what I think we're okay with that.
What other countries are you looking at?
Primarily Thailand, simply because it's duty free. Not looking at it, but actually using our factories in Thailand, and then also to Vietnam. Those are going to be the two main ones. Now I've heard some other countries too, like India. The problems with India is we've used them before. You're going to have a lot slower production time, which might not be much different than the China factories this year, but typically we found also to the quality in India is just not the same as it is over in Asia.
And the logistics is not as sophisticated as China, I experienced.
That is true. That is true. The other thing with talking about logistics in China right now, you have some factories that are not even on the ports. They're not even on the coast. They're deep into China. So once they fill the container up, getting that container to the port, they're going to have to go through several provinces. And right now, trucks can't go from one province to the other, without having a 14-day, withhold. So it's almost you have to deal with a factory that's going to be producing, manufacturing, and shipping from the same province, which is going to be on one of the coasts, like the east coast of China and right there.
Got to be a province where there's a port, like I think Ningbo,
Guangzhou. There's a lot of factories that are near those port cities, but a lot of them are deep into China, and
right.
And it's going to be impossible for them to manufacture and get their items to the ports. The other thing too is we do a lot of container consolidating too, where we may have 1,000 cartons from this factory and 1,000 cartons from this other factory, but they may be 3 or 4 provinces away, and we consolidate it onto one container. That's not going to happen this year.
Nope.
So it brings up to where you're going to have high minimums to fulfill a container from one factory. You're not going to be able to share factories onto one container unless they're in the same province.
Gotcha. Okay. And then also, if we follow the logics of the supply chain, right? So now you've got suddenly, let's say they free up the transportation from the factories to the port, but now what's going to happen to the port is you're going to have this pile up of containers because less vessels are making trips right now because there's less business, right? Because there's not as many. So you're going to have like this domino effect, or maybe domino is not the right word, snowball, where now you've got all these containers backed up and not enough ships. And then when the ships, they send more ships, now there's more vessels coming towards America. And now in New York and LA and Long Beach and wherever they're coming in, now you've got a buildup on the import side, on the US side. So it won't take 30 to 40 days like it normally does to get in a container in the future. I have no idea how long it could take to get from factory to your door. But I'm just going to guess that it will be a lot longer transportation time.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. There's going to be a shortage of containers, shortage of vessels and ships. So once your container actually gets to the port, it's going to be waiting. It's not going to get onto a ship immediately and ship away. The problem is right now there's no business. There's nothing shipping from China.
Right.
So a lot of the carriers, Costco and Merck's and people like that have already just said, hey, we're not even going to be running right now.
Yeah.
We're going to have to wait until we get a full container. It's like an airplane flying from New York to LA. If they only got one or two people on the airplane, they're just going to cancel the flight. They're not going to run it.
Airplanes. What's happening with air freight from China?
That's going to be probably one of the biggest price increases I see, simply because you got Chinese New Year, so the factories were off. Now you got the virus, that the factories are not producing anything. So once they do start producing here in a few months, everybody's going to want their goods right away because there's going to be a shortage of goods. So then they're going to look at air freight. The commercial airlines, FedEx, UPS, DHL, they're going to be packed, and they're going to raise their prices based on they're packed and they can do it.
Well, in addition, the labor unions for this is what I read somewhere. Again, I'm not in that industry, but I read that the labor unions are requesting that their members do not if they're working on a vessel, or like the pilot union, anybody working on a commercial airplane that's part of a union, they're saying we don't want you to go to China, or you're not going to China. So I think there might be a smell shortage too of running these vessels over there, these airships.
You're absolutely correct. American Airlines Pilot Association, I think they had to file suit against American Airlines because the pilots did not want to go over there anymore, and the flight attendants didn't either.
Yeah, wow.
It can be the same way with even UPS and DHL and FedEx.
Anything. The whole logistics chain, the whole transportation chain, the whole logistics chain is affected. So
it is.
So the other countries I heard a little bit about were Albania for European sellers. Albania, again, this is just article I've been reading. Please double, triple check anything that we're saying here. Don't take it as fact. It's just ideas we're putting out for you to go research on your own to see how it can help your business. So I heard Albania production costs are as cheap as, if not cheaper than, China. And for those of you who don't know where Albania is, it's, I believe, in Eastern Europe. So if you're selling in Europe, that might be an option for you to produce your product in Albania. Also Mexico, because of the trade deal that was signed from last year. I think it is. It has it's a positive tariff territory for importing from Mexico to the U.S. Again, do your own research on that tariff deal that went down. That might, and maybe not everything can be produced in Mexico, and they have their own sets of problems with crime and kidnappings, etc. So just be careful that you weigh all the options, but look into Mexico if you're trying to get products to sell in the US. And if you're an Amazon seller, Prime Day is coming up. Mid-July, I think, is Prime Day, which is like, the second biggest Black Friday type of weekend. So start looking that far ahead. And when I say far, it's, March, April, May, June. It's 4 months to get your product. So start looking that far out, okay? I'd say instead of just looking at your business as it is right now, I think a lot of people have blinders on. make sure you're looking at the bigger picture and considering all different scenarios so you can make decisions now before those scenarios play out in real life.
Yes, I agree, Barbara. You have to look 3, 4, and 5 months ahead because there's going to be a shortage of inventory. There's no doubt about that. So the person with the inventory is going to be the one that wins. I highly recommend. I mean, we've already seen this for some of our retail buyers that the owners have already told the buyers, hey, look, normally in the month of March or the month of April, here's the dollar amount we'll buy. They're already doubling and tripling it because they want to bring in the goods and gobble up the goods so that they have them and nobody else or their competitor doesn't either.
That's exactly what I did with one of my suppliers. I'm in the bedding space, and I tripled an order, got it in, and my supplier attempted to raise the price, which from his point of view makes total sense. He needs to maximize the value of this product he has that he can't get from China. But he, thank God, because I've been a customer for about 6 years, he honored the price I've been paying, and I tripled my order just to have that inventory, because what will happen is my competition will run out. I've locked down at least 2 of their SKUs, and my competition will run, 2 of the SKUs, I'm sorry, he no longer has in stock for his other buyers. So at least 2 of them, I'll be able to at least keep my price, but I'll probably raise my price a bit. Not gouge, but raise my price a bit because I'll have fewer competition. Less competition.
That's true. Very smart. I would highly recommend that.
Now, if you're an importer like Damon is and you're selling to wholesale buyers, then you should think about raising your prices. Because one, that's all the inventory you have, and you have to maximize the value of it. If you're not going to be able to get inventory for 3 or 4 months after what you thought you were going to get inventory, then you need to maximize what you have.
Yeah, everybody's going to be scrambling for inventory here in a few months, and I would act sooner than later to get that inventory and gobble it up. You know, I read an article the other day that Amazon's already been doing this because they foresee what the future is here in 3 and 4 or 5 months from now. They also buy from a lot of importers, and they're contacting each one of their importers and buying up all their inventory and stockpiling it because they see what's going to happen here in a few months.
Yep. So, you know, Amazon's a pretty good prediction of what you should be at least considering doing in your business. So let's take a look at what else we've got here on your outline. The delays in production, lack of labor, shortage of raw materials. What else?
Lack of labor, and this is typically traditional right after Chinese New Year. All the workers will go back to their town, and not all the workers will come back. They'll want to just stay with the family and realize, hey, I want to change careers, change jobs, or something like that. So there's always like a little shortage of labor right after Chinese New Year. This year, there's going to be a ton of shortage of labor, and then therefore the labor cost is going to go up, and prices are going to go up, and it's just going to be a snowball effect towards all price increases.
Yeah, the raw materials, the backlog of orders keeps getting bigger and bigger, which could affect quality control maybe. What do you think?
Well, a lot of people don't understand this or don't realize this, but one factory a lot of times does not produce every single part that goes on that piece. A lot of times maybe even like some of our home decor items, which is primarily wood. Well, the metal piece that goes on the back is not produced by our factory. It's produced by a metal factory. Okay, well, if that metal factory is not in production or cannot produce the metal part, then even though our factory has finished completion of our wood product, you know, it's still not finished because it doesn't have the metal part on the back. They can't get it from the raw materials factory. A lot of times our jewelry is the same way. We may have a piece of jewelry that our factory has assembled, but there's a little pearl or beads or something like that that's missing, and they can't get that from the pearl or bead factory because they're not in production right now. So therefore, the bracelet that we're designing and created, you know, can't be completely assembled and shipped to us.
Well, what I like about working with you is because you have used, at least the factory you're using for my goods, you've had a relationship with them for many years, and you have reordered certain types of products from them. I would guess that they kind of buy enough of those metal parts, etc., in anticipation of you placing your regular large volume orders.
The factories we work with, yeah, they have a good understanding of what we usually buy, what we typically need, quantities and things like that. what month we usually place our orders, and so yeah, they're prepared. We've had a long relationship with them, but it's a lot of factories don't, and say, other importers use our factories from other countries. I'm sure I know our factory sells to European importers and importers in Germany and places like that. But us having a long-standing relationship with our factories, I think we would have a little bit of pull to get those little metal backs, something goes on the back before an importer from Germany or Europe does, hopefully.
Right, or a new customer who they've never worked with before and has no track record with them. So that's
For
one
sure.
of the. Hey, if you guys are interested in talking to Damon about having your own products developed and imported after this is kind of shaken loose and we're able to get products again from China or other countries, go ahead and email bizdev. It's BIZDEV at import-designs.com. It's bizdev at import-designs.com, and ask him whatever you need to ask him about third-party logistics and having products manufactured in China. I do want to talk about again, not to be a fear monger, the possible worst case scenario versus what's probably going to happen, in your opinion. What do you think the possible worst case scenario is of this coronavirus importing? And
well, I'll start with what I do think is going to happen. It's a good possibility is once the factories get going in production, I don't think a lot of them are going to be at 100% production for several months. But once they do get to 25 or 50% production rate, just one person is going to come down with the virus, and they're going to shut down the entire factory, and the whole factory will be shut down for probably several weeks. It's only going to take one person to do that, and it's being in the factories like I have for many years. It's a closed environment, to where they're working side by side, assembly line, very close. One person touches an item that then passes it on to the next person. So the viruses can spread really easily in a factory. Just the working conditions the way it is. So I think that's a good possibility. Now, the worst case, I think, would be, say a container start arriving into the United States here in a few months, the first set of containers, and all of a sudden somebody comes down with the virus at some warehouse and then relates it to one of the containers. And
whether or not that's the case, because we're not saying that this virus can live in a container overseas for 40 days. It's not what we're saying. We're saying that someone could think that that's what happened.
Yes. I don't think that's a possibility that a virus could last that long on a container. But the government's going to be safe and sorry and shut down the ports. No more containers from China. That would be just terrible.
Yeah, that's the worst case scenario, guys.
Worst case.
But again, like all we're doing is just sort of postulating. These are the different things that could happen, and just start planning outside of, what you've been doing that is kind of throttled. Just start making some plans for other ways to get your goods. So let me take a look here at so ways to survive and thrive. I love this part of your outline here. Tell us, what can we do?
Well, your inventory is going to be your asset. Again, we're setting good, not because we planned for this. We just happened to fall into this because of the increase in duties and tariffs last fall. We didn't know how it was going to stop and when it was going to stop increasing. So we brought in a ton of extra inventory at the end of last fall, right before one of the deadline for a duty increase. So, get the inventory in, get the right inventory in that you can sell. That's going to be the key to being successful during this time of turmoil. And it's going to get worse. It's going to, like I said, there's going to be a lack of inventory here in a few months, and people's going to be scrambling. And so the most you can get now is going to be the best thing to do.
Yeah, and that was, before you go on, I wanted to pull something out of what you said. Get the right inventory in. So folks, don't just go on a buying spree and get everything. Do your market research, do your niche market research, passionate niche markets, solving a problem, products that solve a problem that are useful. Start asking yourself, what do people need this year? Maybe it's not a toy. Maybe it's something more useful in their business. I know one of the things you used to do when you had a container that one of the most valuable things you ever taught me was don't ship air. Don't ship an empty container. So one of the things you did was you'd fill up that extra space on the end of a container with
toilet paper.
High quality toilet paper too. Like he shopped around. You got really high quality. So you have a lot of toilet paper in stock. But think about, what do people need right now? So source the right products. Do your keyword research. See what your competitors have run out of that was selling really well up until they ran out of inventory. So don't just blindly buy smart.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. A couple of years ago, I was in China, and yeah, I always told our factories, don't ever ship air. I want that container completely full. And so one of our factories said, well, this next container is probably going to be just a little bit short. It's going to be, probably 50 cartons short. And I said, well, we're going to go get some toilet paper. Let's go get some. With the toilet paper factory, tested a lot of toilet paper rolls, and then said, okay,
I don't want
that's
to know
the one.
how.
Nah, just so. Anyways, we imported toilet paper, and the good thing about toilet paper too, it's you're always going to need it, and there's no duty on paper, and so we filled up the container that time with toilet paper, and so
There's no duty on paper. I know what I'm getting for Christmas.
And also done the same thing with paper towels too. We just use them. Employees in their household use them, and toilet paper too. And here in the office and warehouse, we use it too. So
Very
instead
cool.
of running down to Costco or Sam's, we import our own.
It's probably where they got them from. Okay, so what else? Increased prices. Let's see. Ways to survive and thrive.
Well, as a shortage of inventory happens for the next 2 or 3 months, obviously, the importers are going to see their prices, or they're going to see their inventory going down. There's more of a need, and they're going to start raising the prices. Not only that, too, when the containers start coming in, prices are going to be higher too, because of shipping, because of lack of labor, lack of raw materials. I see definitely price increases.
So I think in a nutshell, what I hear you saying, if I had encapsulate it down to one thing to focus on your business, is companies with the inventory this summer and fall are going to be the winners.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. For sure.
Let's say we can't find them from China. So for those of you who are sourcing wholesale, and I know a lot of my list is, what are you going to do? There's going to be a lot of suppliers who are like, man, we can't get inventory. This is what we have right now. So once they're out of it, they're out of it. Start talking to your suppliers. Go to a trade show and start talking to the companies that actually show up as vendors there, because you might be able to work a deal. Also, because trade shows are probably going to have less boots on the ground. They're going to have less attendees at the trade show. So you'll have less competition to work a deal with them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. Communicate with your importers. Communicate with your vendors. Get a feel. Get quantities. Ask them. Say, okay, now this SKU I typically buy from you. How many you got in stock right now? How many did you have in stock a month ago? Just get some answers from them. Get some numbers, and that way you can make your decisions on what you need to do. Look at your sales also on that item for the next, or say like at last March, April, May, and June, and see what quantities you actually sold this time last year, and make your decisions appropriately.
And keep in mind, last March, April, May, what sold, consider how many competitors you had on that product last March, April, May, and assume that if you could own all of the inventory of that, if it was feasible to have 3 or 4 months of inventory, and your competitors didn't think that far ahead, you'll have less competition. So perhaps your quantity sold might increase. So don't just look at what you sold. If you're an Amazon seller, take a look at Keep It, Camel, Jungle Scout, and see what sold last year during that time over all sellers, if it's an Amazon-based product. And also think about what other platforms you're not selling on yet that you can add to your sales channels in order to increase your minimum order from your suppliers and negotiate a good price on it, because you're tripling your volume, but you also have other ways to sell it. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So thank you, Damon. I appreciate it. Damon, I know that you're really good at, you come out with like new products every quarter, I think, right? You have different catalogs,
Mm-hmm.
Fall and summer and spring. So if people want to get help with idea generation for products, brainstorm what kind of products sell for you during spring and fall, what things have you found don't sell anymore, maybe product development, how people can get their products developed, importing, logistics, of course, and fulfillment of their products. So you'll actually do third-party fulfillment of individual products as well as wholesale, whole pallets. They can just send an email to bizdev, B-I-Z-D-E-V, at import-designs.com, and let us know what you're up to, and we'll see how we can help you grow your e-commerce business, whether you're starting it or you're further along the timeline. Let us know how we can help you. Damon, any parting words for people as we navigate this interesting time?
Stay on top of your inventory, know what you need, know what's available, and communicate with your importers and vendors.
Communicate, communicate, communicate.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Thank you very much. I appreciate you being on here with us, Damon Roberts of Import Designs. I'm Barbara Drazga, the Deal Diva. You can also find me at dealdivawholesale.com, and you can sign up for my newsletter at teachmewholesale.com. And I'm happy to help answer any questions about selling on Amazon and other platforms. Thank you very much, Damon. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you.